Okay, Willie back with the Godzilla, the 1993 KX500 build. Going to go over the frame, some of the modifications on the frame, and the gusseting of the frame. The Bought the JT racing kit from Jason. I won't go over all that because he's got a really cool video online on YouTube about how to put the gussets on. But the gussets here, gussets down here on the rocker mounts, shock mount, and then gussets for the exhaust mount here. This frame, we checked it, magnafluxed it, couldn't find any cracks in it, so I didn't really have a lot to do. I didn't put the big mount that Jason makes on here because I don't think it's necessary. This one wasn't cracked, and I just put a little gusset there to fix that. But that's basically what we did. We put his kit on. I highly recommend it. It's very, very easy, and it's got very easy instructions. Everything's numbered and labeled, so you know exactly where they go. Tack them into place, weld them, no biggie. On these box mounts, which normally look like that, some of them were triangled, not this one, but I took a little 3/16 plate and welded it to the top. Did the same thing over here on the exhaust radiator mount. This one was pushed back, trapezoided back that way from a crash, so we straightened it up, mounted the radiator, and then I made a plate to go in there. I think that's important. That'll make that very strong. It's very, very simple to do. Just cut out little squares out of 3/16 or maybe even less than that. Because we're putting a 450 front end back end on this, needed to get a bigger stop on the steering. You can see where the stock one was, where that weld line is, and then just made this piece out of 1/4 inch, welded it on there. It works great. Limits the steering so we don't hit back here into the radiators. Radiator mounts, my old factory bike had these on there, so I went to that bike, took measurements, and replicated that. I did add these gussets because in one of my many crashes on the old bike, I broke this tube up here and had to re-weld it, so I thought I'll strengthen it across the top. These fit, and maybe I'll insert a picture in here so you can see it. The shrouds sit here, radiators inside the outside, the perimeter of this, and then the only other modification I had to do was the radiator gills or shrouds or guards or whatever you call these damn things. I had to trim them off so they fit inside that. So when the radiators are in place, these fit in here. It looks pretty good from the front. You can see them, but it's not bad. Yeah, I just marked those and cut them off. Had to notch them out a little bit there, but no biggie. Pretty much that on the top side. In the rear, we're converting over to a KX 450 wheel hub brake assembly. And I wanted to use the KX450 master cylinder, so all the proportioning was right on the caliper and the brake and had the right feel. Couple advantages. One is I get to cut that stupid little reservoir out of here and get rid of it because this has a built-in reservoir. What I did was just made a plate that has the 40 millimeter spacing to match up with this. The stock KX500 I think is shorter than that, but this bolts into place and it clears everything easily, the subframe, and doesn't hit the swing arm. So I just simply mounted the brake lever on it, put everything together, and made sure that the travel was correct. And of course you got the adjustment at the bottom, but fairly easy to do. It's easier if you can weld it on. I just made a plate and welded it on here, but I imagine you could cut that off or cut one of the tabs off or plate it again and re-drill the holes and do that without having to weld on it. But anyways, that's what we did there. So that's pretty much it on the top side. Need to look at the bottom. Well, a couple things that we did here was the factory mounts are just spot welded right here. These two plates, the inner piece and this tab here. So welded that solid and then welded all this. This has just got a little weld back here and a couple little welds there. So we made that all solid. That should be much stronger. Did that on both sides. And then the other side did that too. And then these are repairs on the frame, and I'll flip it over here real quick and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so as with most dirt bikes, especially 500s or the ones I've seen, this is always beat to death. It's always got dents in it. This one had an actual tear in it here and had a little tear back here. Welded that up and then cleaned up the dents, welded them solid and ground it smooth. welded up the tear in here and then added some weld and ground it smooth, and then wasn't comfortable with that. So what this is on the outside here is a piece of 1.25 inch and a quarter 065 wall chromoly tubing. So what I did was just cut about a third of it out, a slot, fitted it to the angles and stuff, and just hammered it onto the frame, and then clamped it down, tacked it, and then welded that solid, as you can see. And I think that's a lot better repair. I think that's going to be much stronger, because I just don't trust these tubes once they've been beat up and bent and dented and then re-welded. I don't think they have the integrity they need. This doesn't get in the way of anything, fits fine, doesn't cause any problems. And as you can see, we welded up this down here, made sure these welds were solid. You can also see the bottom of the JT kit here, very nice. This is for a skid plate. These tabs on here made a skid plate out of 3/16 aluminum. Sets here. They're countersunk, just to keep the bolts from getting run over, getting torn off. Just going to use little button heads in there to hold that on. Did not put a hole in the middle of it. It's not that big a deal to take it off to change the oil or access the bottom of the motor. And I don't want having the hole in it. I found with my old bike, with the hole in there, every time you hit the ground or the sand or mud, it just packs everything up underneath the motor. So not that big a deal to take 4 little screws out to access the drain plug. But that's pretty much it. There's still a couple little dents here and there in the frame. I'm not going to get crazy with that because I don't think they're damaging anything. We did on the steering head here weld this up. These aren't welded from the factory, so we went ahead and welded those up solid. But that's pretty much it. Off to powder coating soon. I will go over the foot pegs and the foot peg mount. That's a little more involved. That takes a little bit more engineering, we'll call it, to get those in. But anyways, that's it. It's ready to go to powder coating, and once we get it back from powder coating, start putting it together, I'll make another video. Thanks, guys.